Hello, my sunshines, and welcome back to another episode of the Creating Sunshine podcast. I am so excited today. I say that at the beginning of every episode because I always am so excited to talk to everybody. But my guest is Ashley, and we connected last month at the She Is Made for More event. She was on a panel up on stage, and I was just so touched by your story and now your purpose that you've started. And we were talking before we hit record. I was like, you are like the epitome of turning pain into purpose. And I just wanted to have her on the show so that she could share her story and her mission and everything with the rest of you guys, because I think that it is, you know, when difficult and hard things happen in your life, sometimes it is really hard to open up and to share them. And not only, that you share it, but also like you've turned it into a mission. And I love that about you. So welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And I have to say, you went on right before me, and your story was even more inspiring. It was just so beautiful and touching. And I feel like the whole room was quiet, just like taking in all your sunshine. So you were amazing.
Thank
And I'm so
you.
grateful we connected.
I know, me too, me too. And you're kind of local to me, so I'm like, this is exciting because I love to do the in person. And I was like, yes, people that are near me, and I can actually like go and see and hug and like be a part of whatever you're doing, and you can be a part of what I'm doing, and like that's just makes me so happy. So that was just another little added bonus to the event being like near where I live. So I want to start out by your foundation is called Know Her Name. And I wanted to start by asking you like how did that begin for you and what started it?
Yes, so I have my little hat on here, know her name. I sell merch with it. So my story is a personal story. It came from my own experience. Back 4 years ago, I was living the dream. I was a fashion stylist in the entertainment business. I had been doing it at the time for 11 years, and everything was going perfectly. I mean, I was literally living my childhood dreams until one day, overnight, it was 2021, I believe, my life changed, and it was something that is even hard to express to people unless you've like been in a situation where you've been like physically abused or raped. It went from like a switch where one day I was like this happy girl, never seeing bad in life, always seeing the positive, to I was raped, I was beaten while I was raped, and then waking up, the inside of my body is shivering, and I'm just going, what the, like, what is my life now? Why do I feel different? Why do I feel like something was taken from me? So that experience was extremely traumatizing, and if you've ever been in a situation like that, you know that it takes everything from you, including your power and your voice. So unfortunately, that situation with a former coworker went on for 7 months. It was not a relationship. It was definitely someone that, forced their power on me. And finally, in a situation where we were in New York for work, was the final, just the final straw for me. I had bruises, visual abuse bruises. And that was when I think my voice was like, okay, something needs to happen. This needs to stop. And from that point on, I came forward. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. To this day, I still thank my mom, who was the one that was like, "You need to call the police. You need to, report it." I never called the police in my life, so it was many steps, many stages, leading to a point where I did call the police and reported it. And almost, I think, 7 months later, the charges were dropped because there wasn't enough evidence to bring it to a jury. And it was a few days before my birthday. And I remember just, at that moment, literally not wanting to live, just not wanting to go on with life, just seeing a dark hole when I saw my future. So through that, I connected with the Women's Center, East Los Angeles Women's Center, and I was, talking to these women, telling them that when I was 17, I did a fashion show in high school. I've helped put on a fashion show for women who had been abused. In that moment, I remember a woman being like, I was helping her put on her earrings, and she was like bawling her eyes out and said, "I feel so beautiful." And in that moment was when I realized at 17 that I wanted to be a fashion stylist. Well, fast forward, I was given the opportunity to put on a fashion show for the East Los Angeles Women's Center during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I'm 27 at the time. And that was the moment where Know Her Name was born. To be connected with these women, to do what I love again. That was the first time, I think, in almost a year I was styling again. To do what I love again, but to connect with these women on a different level, it was like a spark inside of me. And I remember telling my mom, like, I need to do something with this. So I've had it for 2 years now. And it's, it's my baby, and I can't wait to continue to spread the word and make people aware of what it is like to truly be a survivor of abuse or rape.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing your story and being vulnerable and open, because I know that in the beginning, I can imagine, like, how did you decide? Okay, you went 7 months without saying anything, right? You went 7 months without reporting it. And then you had the courage with, with the help of your mom, like you said, to report it. But then what was the moment? Like, I know you said that you were at the women's center, but like when you first started sharing your story publicly, like how did that feel for you? Because I'm sure there's a lot of women listening that they're like, I can't even get this out without like completely breaking down.
A lot of survivors ask me that question. And for me, it all started. So it went on for 7 months, but I did share it with certain people that were in my life at the time that I thought that I trusted. In little, when I share with other people who aren't survivors, there's so many things that you need to like be aware of when a survivor is speaking or saying stuff, almost like a help me, help me. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that individual that I, confided in, they, believed me but didn't do anything for me. So of course that like made it even worse coming forward, being like, well, if that person believed me but didn't want to fight for me or help me, how do I think someone else will? And so when it was that moment, I remember when I finally told my mother, she was like, okay, you need to call the police. And I remember I was in New York, so I wasn't with my family. And I was on the bathroom floor calling the police, bawling my eyes out. And I remember when the detective had asked me, what had happened. The first thing I asked her was, "Am I going to lose my job?" And that was like a huge wake up call for me of just like, this dream that I'm living gets taken away from me, and now I'm worried that I'll never get to do it again. And when I met with her, she was like, that was the first thing you asked me, and I was like, no one should ever feel that way with a
Mm-hmm.
job, with a individual, whatever it may be. And the more and more, like that detective made it feel like a safe place to share my story. But then, the more I shared it, because for an entire year, I was sharing it like twice or three times a week, but to a detective, to
Mm-hmm.
all these different people that were trying to, break me and, call me names and tell me that I was a liar or are you sure that happened? And so it became very hard when I would share my story because I'm like, well, now, my body's shaking inside. I can't think straight. Now I have panic attacks on not even a daily basis, but like throughout the day, I'm having panic attacks. How am I going to ever share this in a way that feels safe? So
Yeah.
for me, it was, I was seeing a therapist, but there was just so much going on that even when I would share it with the therapist, it didn't feel safe. There was just so many noises or voices in my head. So when I finally did share it at the East Los Angeles Women's Center for the fashion show, I remember wanting to pass out. The day before the fashion show, the director was like, I wasn't going to be in it. I was just going to be the stylist of the fashion show. And she was like, why don't you participate as a survivor? And I was like, I don't know. And all of the credit, I always go back to my mom because my mom was like, it wasn't your fault. There's no
Mm-hmm.
shame for you to carry. I believe you. Don't let anyone tell you, don't let anyone get in your brain because you were in that room. You know what happened. And so it really helped me to go, okay, she believes me. I can do this. And then when I shared it, after that, it became a safe place to just share that story and know that, one person believed me and then other people began to believe me. Other people who had experience were believing me. And I think from that point to today, every time I share it, I still feel like I'm like, letting it off my chest and letting things go. And that's how I always tell survivors. It's just, share it with someone who feels safe. If
Yeah.
it's one person, if it's you looking in the mirror sharing it to yourself, or if it's a room full of people, just keep sharing it until it feels like it's not even a part of you anymore and you're sharing a story of someone that is, behind you and stuff. So I think it's all about you literally using your voice, and even
Yeah.
just you in the mirror. And that's how I always tell survivors. And that's how I can share this. Now I get somewhat excited to share because I'm like, there's so much that I've experienced, but I'm so much stronger for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it sounds like, I know probably you, and the same for me, is like sharing my story now is like healing almost, right? Because you don't have to keep it all inside. And so, your foundation is Know Her Name, but what would you say, like, what is the core message behind Know Her Name when you are talking to people about it? And like, why does it matter so much to you?
So, one thing I experienced through all of it when I talk to other survivors is a lot of shame. So, shame comes with
Mm-hmm.
it, a very known thing. And, I have survivors like, I moved past it, but, I've only told one person in my life. I've only told my husband, or I've only told my mom, which is completely okay. And I always say, like, justice isn't calling the police. Justice is whatever you see it as. If it's you screaming it in the shower, or it's you're sharing it with someone. But the whole point behind Know Her Name for me was because when I was going through all of it, like you're, reading the documents, and it's like, that person verse, this, and your name's not in it, you're almost like at a point of just like, you have to hide yourself. You shouldn't share with everyone. And, I had a friend at the time that was like, why are you telling so many people? It happened to me too, and I didn't tell anybody. And you almost want to give them a warm hug because you're like, that means no one believed you, no one supported you. And
Yeah.
so for me, Know Her Name is a whole message of like, I can go to the top of a mountain right now and scream my entire story. And my story is not something that's like you see on the news. Like, she was walking down the alley and she was raped. It was like, no, my story was like, I had to become someone I wasn't in order to survive. And so I share my story like that because there's so many other stories that are like that. So many other women who are, mentally not well because of it. So many other women that are hiding it, and it's spilled out in other areas of their life because, they were raped, and then the next day they saw their perpetrator, and everyone's, people are questioning them. And it's like, that is the reality of it. Your perpetrator takes so much power from you that you lose your voice. You don't even want to feel pretty anymore. You don't even want to be in your own body. You don't even want to be, associated with your own name. And so with me adding my fashion side to it, and adding, this new idea that I created, my whole message of Know Her Name is that, like, you can stand in a room and have a conversation with someone and be like, yeah, I was raped. And, because I'll be at dinner with someone. I'll be like, yeah, I was raped. I have a nonprofit. And the other person's like, and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I'm okay. And I think that's the whole message, is like, you should be able, you are still that person. That person took that from you. That person is all messed up. They're the ones that should be ashamed. You should be able to stand there and still say your full name and say, I believe what I know is true, and I love myself, and I want that for so many women, to not just, get past it and then put it in a book in a shelf like behind you. It's like, no, carry it with you, because
Yeah.
you are literally a badass for surviving that. Because what you survived, your body, your mind, your heart did what it did in order to get you to where you are now.
Yeah. And yeah, I think on a lot of that, it's funny that you bring up like your dinner, because my oldest daughter especially always gets wait, are you there? It said it stopped for a second.
Yeah, someone was calling me, so I was trying to exit
Oh,
it.
okay. Um Yeah, so my oldest daughter, she tells me, because people, I wore wigs a lot towards the beginning of the year because I literally, like, I had no hair, right? And I would wear wigs, but they looked so good, and people would always be complimenting me on the wigs. And then I'd be like, but they'd start pushing, like, oh, where did you get your hair done? Oh, wear this, wear that, And so finally I'd be like, it's a wig, because it's like, I don't know what else to say. And also I want to share it because maybe they want to get one. And they're like, oh, why? And I'm like, I remember one day we're at Starbucks. It's like 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, because I have breast cancer. And they're like, same thing. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, and then my daughter's like, Mom, you cannot hit people with that at 8:30 in the morning. Like, they are not ready. And I go, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, it's the truth. It's my story. It's why do we feel like we have to hide these things? because almost to make other people more comfortable, right? Because other people are like, oh my God, like they can't handle it. Like if I can handle it and if you can
So
handle it, then they better be able to handle hearing it, honestly.
I've never heard someone say it like that. And that is so true. It's like, if I can walk through this entire path and tell you at Starbucks that, this is what happened to me, you can stand there for, 2 minutes and be like, oh, okay. And I think I always want to, like, anytime I am with someone where I'm like, okay, they might take it heavy. I can always feel it. I'd be like, but I'm okay. I try to make like a joke, make it light. And then they're like, I don't know if I should laugh or I don't know if I should give you a hug. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm okay. And this is why I'm sharing it, because
Right.
majority of the time when I do share it, that other person comes back with, oh yeah, it happened to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Or yeah, that happened to my daughter. And these stories should just continue to be told, because I feel like the more we share it, the more these perpetrators will go behind bars. The more these
Yeah.
stories that are told that aren't, you know, everyone's story is valid, whatever your story is. Like there are people like, well, I didn't say no. And it's like, no, that person knew. Regardless of what your words were, they knew that they were raping you. And I
Yeah.
think it's so hard because those are the stories I hear. Like, oh gosh, you were so brave to fight back. And I'm like, the first time I fought back, the second time I just lied there paralyzed. So it was two different reactions. And guess what? Like, what I learned from other survivors was that my body was protecting me the second time by being paralyzed because it knew what happened the first time. And that it's like you want to give yourself a warm hug because you're like, wow, I am that strong that my body knew how to fight without even me doing what I thought I would do in this situation. And so I think every time people share their stories, people, they feel like they just want to give you a warm hug because somewhere in your story, regardless of what it is,
Hmm.
people can relate to you.
Yeah.
Everyone has happy times, but everyone has those heavy times. And if someone could just be like, yeah, I had a bad day today, and you don't even know the person, you're like, I already feel like we're connected, like that's what makes life beautiful.
Yeah. So in your transformation during these past few years, what have been some of like your favorite, I always love to talk about tools and modalities and things that have really helped you to develop this mindset that you have today, because unfortunately there are survivors that they're struggling with getting out of that, right? Like you said, a lot of people are feeling the shame and they're feeling the blame and they don't want to share their story because they feel like it's their fault. So what kind of tools have you used? Has it been therapy or, anything that's helped you get to this like beautiful acceptance that you have today?
I think the first thing I tell every survivor that I talk to is finding that one person that believes you. Like truly, like finding that one person that is going to show up for you every day, even when you don't want to show up for yourself. And for me, that was my mom. I, in the beginning, so I walked away from my career at that time. And I remember I wouldn't get up for days. I mean, I would stay, if I didn't have to do an interview for, the case, I was in bed and my mom would call me at like 1 p.m. and she'd be like, are you still in bed? And I'd be like, yeah. And she'd be like, and it was tough love. Like she'd be like, get up, Ashley. I love you. You have 5 minutes, but you need to get up. And I thank her because if not, I would have fallen into a deep, deep depression. And so
Yeah.
I would say like number one is finding someone who believes you. Like carry that person with you and hold them tight because they're going to push you even when you feel like, wait, maybe I wasn't. Maybe I don't believe that actually happened to you. They're going to be the reminder. Two, as cheesy as it sounds, it works every single time. I'm so sorry. My dog, she is being a crazy girl right now. It works every single time. Turn on a song. So a song that makes you feel alive again. For me, it was a weird song because I don't really listen to it was like I think I'm not good with like DJs, but it was like Kyo and Whitney Houston, Higher Love. And I
Hmm.
like to work out before. And I remember one day I was like, I'm going to just go outside. And I hit like shuffle and that song came on. So it became my song every morning, even when I didn't even want to hear happy music. I turned it on while I lie there and just let it play and let it play. And the more and more I heard it, maybe 2 weeks later, I was able to get out of bed. So for me, number two is a song that gets you out of bed every day. Three is doing, people would always tell me, like my therapist would always tell me, go do something nice for yourself. And I'd be like, it feels so wrong. Like it just felt so wrong to go do something nice
Yeah.
for yourself. And I'd be like, what does that look like? I don't even know how to treat myself right now. I don't know how to love myself, trust myself. So for me, I think it was like the simple things as like during a face routine, like a skincare routine. I didn't do a skincare routine until it happened to me. And for me, it was a huge thing because of another individual that was in my life during that time that, didn't help me, took a lot of that from me, took a lot of my own power as well as my own perpetrator. So when I was able to go and like, get a face wash, get a moisturizer. Sounds ridiculous, but like every morning I'd play that song. Then I'd go to the mirror and I'd look at myself and I would like put on the face routine and I would play the song. Next thing you know, I'm dancing in the mirror, putting on my face routine, and it's my favorite thing to do for the day. And I think moving your body is another one, regardless of what it is, especially for survivors of abuse or rape. Your body feels like it doesn't belong to yours. So to be able to do things to help you trust yourself again, it goes such a long way. So I think having someone who believes you, finding a good song that makes you feel like you again, doing something nice for yourself, and then just going out there and just living your life in a way that feels like it's yours. Like moving your body, if it's yoga, if it's, turning on YouTube and finding a 5 minute, cardio thing, like whatever it is, even if it's just a walk outside. Like if you begin to start with those, like you will start to feel sunshine again. You literally will
Yeah.
start to feel life, see the rainbow at the end of all of it. And then other things will start to happen for you.
Hmm. I love that. I love that advice for anybody that's listening and maybe they're like, you know what? I mean, because it's not anything that's that's crazy. It's just simple habits, right? And you just start stacking them up and stacking them up. And like I'm learning a lot right now through things that I've, experienced this last year and things that but it's like your body holds trauma so much and you don't even realize. And like I've been doing a lot of energy work, and learning things like that because even it has to do with even your whole left side, right? I've learned that is like that's the side that my cancer was on. That's like, and that's your emotional side, right? Of all those times like not speaking up and not using your voice and not saying anything. And you know and maybe it's not something as traumatizing as assault or rape, but anytime that your voice has been silenced for whatever reason, because maybe you were people pleasing, maybe you were in a relationship and you didn't want to say anything because you were like, well, I don't want to cause a fight. And and that was kind of like my thing is I thought as long as like we're not fighting, we're getting along. And it's like, no, that's not true, because inside I'm silently dying. And you are constantly worried about what everyone else is thinking rather than voicing what you want and what you need. And I think that that's a good message for anyone, to start to do those things, to take your power back, right? To start to feel like yourself, to love yourself again. So I love those tips. And I want to know now, with Know Her Name, what types of things do you do? Like events, what types of things do you do for other women if people listening are looking for a place to connect? How can they do that?
So the number one thing is I have everything on my website, knowhername.foundation. Where like my two main things are is I do like one-on-one calls. I'm not a therapist, I'm not an expert at it. I just have my story, and what I've learned is I'm able to sit here and share it because other women sat with me over the phone, in person, and shared their story. So I offer like a one-on-one just conversation. It could be as simple as, where do I start? Who do I tell? Who do you think I should trust to tell? And it's like, we have this conversation, and I'm like, I'm not going to have the answers for you, but somewhere, somehow, in a conversation of sharing stories, you feel like you just made a best friend, and you feel like you just made someone, who understands you.
Mm-hmm.
So I offer that. The second thing that makes my nonprofit different is I offer freestyling services for survivors. So one of the main things that, for my situation was I was still a fashion stylist. I've been a fashion stylist now for 13 years now. I always learned, from any woman, man, anyone that I had worked with, is how, a good outfit could get you that job interview. A good outfit, could make you perform well on TV. All of that connects. All of that makes you feel like a better human being, feel more confident. Well, you have that, and then you throw in this trauma. All of a sudden, you don't want to be pretty anymore. It feels ugly to
Mm-hmm.
be in your own body. For me, I was always with my hair slicked back, no makeup, the baggiest clothes ever. I just didn't want anyone to look at me. I didn't want to look at myself. And so I offer free styling services to survivors that are going to any court appearances, any appearances with, the police. If you are someone that comes forward, you're constantly having to meet with them all the time, meet with attorneys all the time, whatever your situation is. Even if you don't do any of that and you're ready to go on a date again and you don't even know how you should dress, because that is a big one. I mean, I experienced it with my husband. He was the first man that I started seeing after my situation. There's so many things like, what do I wear? How should I wear? Will I be judged? Will I be looked? Will I be raped again? All these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I offer that one-on-one support. It's free of charge. All of it is secondhand clothing. A lot of it, it's from, my own styling experience with clients, or it's donated from influencers, donated from people. It's good quality clothing. And I always say too is that as a survivor, you don't have to wear a suit to court. You don't need to. You wear what you want to wear. If you want to wear, bright pink sweatpants, wear them. If that makes you feel confident, wear them. Um, but the reality is, most of the time, you're judged for what you look like, how you're gonna appear. I remember when I went in to report mine in Los Angeles, I was in North Hollywood and I was in a suit, and the girl next to me was in shorts and a tank top, and she had been there longer than I was. And the policeman came straight up to me and was like, "Okay, we'll go take you in." And she was like screaming. And he's like, "Ma'am, you need to stop. You need to sit there and you need to stop." And I was like, "Can you please take her? Like, we're both experiencing the same thing, and she's been sitting here longer. Like, take her." And that was like so devastating to see, because it's like, you're just taking me seriously because I have a suit on and I have my hair
Yeah.
back. So you're like, oh, well, she'll probably be easier to deal with. And I go in that room and I like chewed that guy out and was like, "You're not respecting me. I'm leaving." So I'm like, whatever you want to wear to these things, like, I will help you with. And that was what I offer. And also like resources for, you know, um, therapy. So many people, can't afford, there's the EMDR therapy. They can't afford that. And it's like, I can connect you to so many different people, that offer, different prices. Most of the time they don't take insurance, but, there's one that I know that's in Newport that does $13 an hour. And I mean, $13 for each session. It's like, I have so many resources from what I went through by going
Mm-hmm.
to all these different places. And so I offer those resources. I offer support groups. um, I even offer support groups for, the loved ones, because people don't understand that, you're going through it, but also like a mom is going through it. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
age she's watching her baby fall apart. Um, uh, my husband always says, when you had, told me what happened, I was like Googling podcasts, Googling, articles, trying to find like, how do I help my girlfriend at the time? How do I help her and not put more stress on her, because I'm trying to understand what she's going through. And that was like a number one thing for, my mom and my husband play a huge role in helping with all this. It's still a little baby nonprofit, but that was like number one thing, is like, you got to help the people that are helping them, because they have to make sure they're good to help these survivors. So you have to help them and guide them. So a lot of it is resources, one-on-one. And I always highlight this one major. It's free styling. Like, I will bring in my rack. I will have clothes for you and be like, let's give you the celebrity styling experience, because it does wonders. It does wonders. I mean, it did wonders for my own self. And I've been getting dressed and, doing my hair and clothes every day of my life since I was a kid. And when I did that for myself the day before I was going to see my perpetrator, I stood there and was like, yes, I am here, and you cannot take back my voice. You can't take anything from me. So those are the things that I do offer.
I love that. I love that. And what about your Note for Hope campaign?
Yes, so right now, and I decided I was gonna do it just for the holidays, but I decided I'm just gonna keep it because it ended up being so beautiful. I was reading so many notes and I'm bawling because it's so beautiful to see people like, you know, a lot of the times we go to like the store and they're like, "Do you want to donate for this? Do you want to donate for that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, especially, I mean, I see it for survivors because I'm a survivor of that. Like, I'm a survivor of abuse and rape, but it's like for anyone who's a survivor of anything, what changes your day is, someone telling you something as simple as like, you're going to get through this. When you're going through a hard time and someone says, like, you're going to get through this, sometimes when you're in the beginning of it, you're like, I don't want to hear the positive. Just let me
Yeah.
sit in the negative. Let me sit here because I need to, I need to love myself in the sad times. But when someone says to you, especially when you're a survivor of this, like, I believe you, it could literally be the reason why someone doesn't commit suicide. It could be the reason why someone decides to go to the next step in their life. And that is a huge purpose behind Note for Hope is you're not only donating, but you're also giving a message to a survivor during this holiday season, and I plan on continuing it. Just it's always going to be on my website. So whenever you donate, you have the chance to leave a beautiful note. And it could be, I have had people ask me, like, I want to leave a note, but I don't know how. I'm like, it could literally just be like, everything's going to be okay in the end. Or it could be, I had beautiful message of people from their own experience writing, this is so and so from, California saying, this and this, and I was there too, and look where I am now, because that's what's important is hearing the after, hearing,
The
what
hope.
happened
Yeah.
to you after, like, did you go down the wrong road or did you have a support system, whether it's 20 people or it's 2 people? Did you have a support system that was like, I believe you, let's walk you back to yourself? But in reality, you're not walking back to yourself. You're walking back to a new version, or you're going to a new version of yourself that has, a beautiful life ahead of you, but has this strong individual that's like, if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Yeah.
And, Note for Hope is, I hope if you're listening, you can go to knowhername.foundation, and it's right in the beginning. If you scroll down past the image, it says Note for Hope. You can leave anything literally from $1 to, whatever amount you want to give, and just leave a note, because this week I will be handing them to survivors, and I can't even begin to tell you how I know that it's going to touch their hearts, and it's going to be the reason why this holiday season, maybe they smile a little bit brighter.
Yeah. I love that. I know I found a company in the beginning of the year, and it was called Hope Scarves. And it was the same thing that you go onto their website. And so you tell a little bit about yourself and your cancer journey and what you're going through. And then they send you, it's like this beautiful scarf, like for your, and I wore it a lot, like in the summer, because it was so freaking hot that I didn't want to wear a wig. So I wore this beautiful scarf. But when it came to me, it came with someone's story. And I was like, oh my gosh, she also had triple negative breast cancer. Oh my gosh. And it was like her story of what, she came out of. So the only thing they ask you is like when you're done with it. So like now I need to do mine is I fill out my story and I send the scarf back to them. They wash it and everything, and then they give it to somebody else. And I was like, but yeah, it was just such a cool thing to get that like note. And when you're sitting there, like my hair just fell out and I don't want to hear it because like I look crazy,
Yeah.
but being able to see it and hear somebody else's story and how they got through it, you're like, oh, okay. If she did it, I could do it too. So I
Yeah.
just love that. When I read that, I was like, that is such an amazing campaign. And I'm sure that it probably, and I'm sure those people keep those notes forever, as a
Yeah.
little reminder.
No, absolutely. I actually had someone write me a note on like a little paper when I was going through it, and I still carry it in this little bag in my purse. And to me, it's like, okay, um, I'm very much healed from it, but I still have my days. Survivors still have their days. And it's
Yeah.
a beautiful message just to even look back and be like, I remember when I first read this where I was. And now I'm like, wow, like look how far I've come. Look how I emotionally had took myself out of that, and I'm standing here and I'm able to share my story with people.
Yeah. So how do you feel like this has changed your fashion styling? I mean, has it changed the way that you serve your clients, the questions you ask them, like your energy? Because I think you even mentioned it on stage sometimes, like the fashion industry can kind of get a bad rap, right? Being a little bit superficial, so how do you feel like what has happened to you has changed the way that you do your job now?
It's changed in so many ways. I absolutely love this question because so I did entertainment. So since like 6 months out of high school, I was working the red carpet of the Oscars. So was always in entertainment for 11 years. Live television, photo shoots, music videos. I was doing all of that. And it could be a heavy, you have to have tough skin to be in it. And I never, you hear these stories of, what I experienced and think like, oh, that's probably just in the movies. And then I experienced it. And then all of a sudden I was like, I never want to be in that world again. I never want to be around people that, aren't supporting me or that, are only in it for, the money or the glitz and the glamour and the fame. And so it was hard for me when I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. So now I still do fashion styling. But it's a beautiful way to look at life now because I still do fashion styling. I do it on a personal level. So, I do anyone who needs, whether it's like a CEO or someone that's like, just had a baby and they're postpartum and they're like, I need to know how to feel beautiful again. And and I also still do entertainment here and there. And it's a beautiful way to look at it because, like, we're all human. Whether you are a celebrity or, you're someone who just had a baby and you want to feel beautiful again, we're all human and we all experience things in life. And I have my voice now. So now I'm like, you know, maybe I don't want to work with that person because I feel bad energy with them. Whereas like in the
Mhm.
past, I would just do the job, this is my job. I'm just going to do it. Where now I'm very protective of my energy. And I'm so proud of that because I am proud to be like, you know what, maybe we're not going to work well together. I can find you someone else, but I don't think we're going to work well together. I don't think we'll clash. But inside, I'm like, I feel like that energy isn't good for me and I need to protect myself. And also working with being expanding, not just working with, the TV personalities, the celebrities, but working with other people and seeing how one outfit could change them. One outfit could be the reason why, they got a job or, shared that story of like, this is my husband and you helped me pick that out for my first date, it's a little more fulfilling now that I do the personal styling because I get a lot of feedback from my clients of just like, this, oh my God, I can't wait for this or that and stuff. And I do love that I get to do both now, and do it on my own terms, be able to say, this is for me, this isn't for me, and have my voice and know that I could step into something. I have been doing a little more stuff back in entertainment and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I used to be afraid to go back. I think a year after it happened, I worked the Oscars and I had a full panic attack. My husband had to drive me there. He like waited in the parking lot all night because he wanted to make sure I was okay in case I had a bad episode. And I've learned to not be afraid of that industry anymore and know that like if something does happen again, well, guess what? I'm going to walk away from it and I'm going to be better for it, And so that was a huge thing for me was walking away from it and being terrified of what came next. And I'm very grateful for what came next and it's made me stronger for it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that has to be very difficult, almost putting yourself back into a similar situation, of where that happened to you. And it's like, I mean, that in itself, is like, I don't even want to go back into that situation, into that lifestyle, So the fact that you were able to not only go back, but to do it in a way that feels more aligned for you, rather than just taking a job because you're taking a job, and actually like putting your foot down and being like, you know what, I don't think that this is good for me. And it was funny because I just interviewed Chantel on the podcast the other day that was also at the event. And she said a line that she uses. And I'm like, I'm totally stealing this because she's like, I'm not available for that. Like, that's just her line. If it doesn't work, she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not available for that. And she goes, and the look on people's face when I say that, they don't know how to respond. They're like, well, okay. Like,
Yeah. There's so much power that, I always remind survivors like you always had that power. Someone took that from you. So don't get mad at yourself and be like, wow, now I have this power. I wish I had it back then. It's like, no, you had that power.
yeah,
Someone took it from you. And now once you get that power back, you are never letting anyone take that power from you. I mean, if I could take away anything from my whole experience is that like I'm standing here 32 years old. I turned on Friday and I'm like, I am never going to let anyone take my power or my light ever again because
yeah,
I know what it's like and I don't deserve that. And that is just something I'm carrying with me to help other survivors is that I mean, I'm not going to say every day I'm like, oh, I can't take my power. Like, I have my moments, I have my days, but to be able to stand there and, like, look at someone that you could work with or someone in your life and be like, you know what, like, and in a peaceful way, not in an angry way, not in like a revenge way, in like a
Yeah.
peaceful way, like, I just don't think this serves me anymore. And that's okay, like, that's okay for me, that's okay for you. Let's just, be okay with that. And I learned a lot of that from, my entire experience. And it's helped me use my voice where in the past, maybe I'd wait to use my voice, where now I'm like, I can use my voice anytime I want.
Yeah.
Anytime I don't feel comfortable in a situation, I don't feel safe in a situation, I literally could be like, I can leave. No one's holding me, no one's holding me here hostage in a situation to be honest, that's a little like, it could be triggering for me because I've been in a situation where I was held and wasn't able to leave. But now I'm like, you know what? I have this power now, and I will tell somebody or be in a room and be like, this doesn't feel for me. This doesn't feel safe for me. And I'm going to leave. And I want that for every survivor. I want every survivor to hold themselves with so much love and power. And even at the event, I had a mirror that said, power looks good on me. Because as women, it almost feels like if we say we have power, it's like we're looked upon, in a negative light. Like, oh, she
Mm-hmm.
thinks she's, this and this. And it's like, why are men allowed to do that? Why are men allowed to take up space in the room? Why can't we take up space and show our power? It doesn't mean we're, a bad person. We're just taking our power, just like every other person in this life is allowed to take their power. So, yeah, I mean, I think I want every survivor to get to a point where it's over there. My mom would always say, slap it on the wall, slap it on the wall. And when I would share it and I'd go in a dark place and I'd, be living it again, she'd see it and she'd be like, grab it and slap it on the wall. And I'd like get mad at her. And now I'm like, now I tell survivors that, like, sometimes you need that love that's like,
Yeah.
no, you're not going to let that happen to you. And you're almost like, whoa, like, don't get mad at me. And it's like, I'm not getting mad at you. I know what's better for you. I know what you
Yeah.
deserve. And you deserve to lie in bed for moments, but you also deserve to have someone call you up and be like, I can literally feel through the phone that you're still sitting in bed. Get up,
Yeah.
get up. And I remember being so angry with my mom, but now I'm so grateful because it almost makes me emotional. I'm like, I might still be laying in bed. I wouldn't be, now I'm married and now I have, like, there wouldn't have been that moment if my mom didn't call me and go, get out of bed.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, you're a survivor, find that person. Even if it's me who's going to call you, because I have connected with so many survivors that aren't ready to share their story publicly, aren't ready to share it with family. They text me, I call them randomly, I'll text them and be like, I believe you, I love you, have a beautiful day. Here's your, like, I always ask them, like, when I talk to survivors, what's your song? So I'll send them that song randomly, like, here's your song, you better put it on right now. And like, I'll be like, you can lay in bed, but turn on, like, there was a survivor that I had talking to, and I'm like, here's your song, play it. If you're still laying in bed, play it, but I want you to get out of bed after you listen to it. Like, it needs to be. So if you're a survivor listening, you can reach me at knowhername.foundation. I will be that person. I will be that person that's like, we're meeting up for coffee and you're getting out of bed. Or we're doing a Zoom chat. So that way you can, if you're alone, let's do a FaceTime. So that
Yeah.
way you're not alone. You're literally not alone in your apartment. And I'm very grateful because I was not alone after I came forward with it. I had an amazing family that supported me and friends that supported me, but not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I know her name is there for that, because I can carry it with you. And I just don't want any survivor to ever have to carry those dark things alone.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I feel like that is just such. My last question was going to be, what message would you share with people? But I feel like you just shared it perfectly and so amazing. And I think that it just can give anybody that's listening so much hope, just to know that there are people there for you. There are people to support you. If you guys want to reach out, I'm going to put all of Ashley's contact information in the show notes so you can go check her out and her amazing mission and what she's doing. And I just so blessed I feel to have met you and to have connected with you. And I know that this is just the beginning of many beautiful things to come. So I thank you so much for coming on the show. This was such a good, like, perfect way to start my day. So like inspirational.
Same. You are so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that we connected because I feel like it's amazing to meet someone else that has turned their pain into something beautiful, and that we are doing something with it to share with other people out there, so they don't have to
I
carry
love it.
whatever them. So I am
I
so
love it.
stoked.
So if you guys are listening to this episode and you guys heard anything that maybe inspired you, we would love it if you would tag us, share it in your stories, or maybe send it to somebody that you know might need to hear it, because maybe there's a survivor that you are like, you know what, she could really use Ashley in her life. So go ahead and share that episode and send it to her, and just know that we are here for you every single step of the way. And I hope that you continue creating sunshine in your life.
Thank you.